Welcome to India's Space Odyssey, the definitive podcast series chronicling the remarkable rise of Indian space research. I'm your host, and today we embark on an extraordinary journey through 7 decades of vision, determination, and unprecedented achievements that transformed India from a newly independent nation into a global space superpower. From the humble beginnings of launching rockets on bicycles from a small fishing village in Kerala to becoming the first nation to land near the lunar South Pole, India's space story is one of the most inspiring tales of scientific triumph in modern history. Today, we'll explore not just the spectacular successes, but also the setbacks that became stepping stones, the government policies that enabled growth, the international partnerships that expanded horizons, and the ambitious roadmap that promises to take India to the moon, Mars, Venus, and beyond by 2047. This is the complete story of how India's space dreams took flight. I'm Akash, and joining me is an extraordinary guest, a veteran who's tracked India's space rise up close. Welcome, sir.
Thanks so much for having me. This country's space story is not just rockets and numbers, it's a tale of incredible vision and relentless people.
Absolutely. From humble beginnings to lunar landings, let's dive in. Let's start at the very beginning. Many know ISRO today, but where did it all begin? Why did India, a newly independent country, even think of space?
It's a great question. India's space journey started in 1962, just 15 years after independence. Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, the father of Indian space, believed that space technology, even for a developing nation, could be a critical tool for progress, like weather forecasting and communication for rural areas.
Am I right that this was formalized as INCOSPAR?
Exactly. INCOSPAR, the Indian National Committee for Space Research, was set up by Nehru, acting on advice from both Homi Bhabha and Sarabhai. Their vision wasn't prestige, it was development.
And the first rocket was assembled in a church?
Yes, in Tumba, Kerala. The selection of Tumba, a small fishing village near Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala, as India's first rocket launch station, is a story that perfectly captures the spirit of India's early space program. In 1962, when Sarabhai and his team, including NASA representatives, were scouting locations for a rocket launch site, they needed a place close to the magnetic equator, ideal for studying atmospheric phenomena. The first choice was actually Velana Turut, but Sarabhai rejected it, saying, Velana Turut means the sandbar of the white elephant. I'll not have it here at any cost. No white elephant. The government will not like it. The United Nations will not like it. And so Tumba was chosen, named after a medicinal plant with white flowers that once grew. Here's the remarkable part. To establish the Tumba Equatorial Rocket Launching Station, TRLS, they needed land. The local bishop, Reverend Peter Bernard Pereira, made an extraordinary gesture. He donated the St. Mary Magdalene Church and its surrounding 600 acres of land to ISRO. The church became the first rocket assembly facility. The bishop's quarters became the first design office, and the altar where prayers were once offered became the workspace where India's space dreams were crafted. It's a beautiful metaphor. In a place of faith, India's faith in its scientific future took root. Tinglo, ilo, unno, duno, mangi, duma, miuke. It is Indian jugaad at its finest, a symbol of how science and community blended.
And the first fireworks?
On November 21, 1963, at 6:25 p.m., India launched its first rocket, a NASA-supplied Nike Apache-sounding rocket carrying a sodium vapor payload. The rocket was transported to the launch pad on a bicycle, and the payload was assembled in the church that had become a laboratory. This wasn't about reaching space. This small rocket went up just 200 kilometers, but it was about taking the first step. As they say, the longest journey begins with a single step, and this was India's first step into the cosmos.
So, from church to the cosmos. What about Aryabhata?
Fast forward to 1975, and we witness another historic moment. On April 19, 1975, at 1:28:55 p.m. IST, from a remote Soviet cosmodrome at Kapustin Yar, India launched its first satellite, Aryabhata, named after the ancient Indian astronomer and mathematician. The story behind Aryabhata's creation is fascinating. In 1971, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi forwarded a letter from India's ambassador in Moscow to Dr. Sarabhai mentioning Soviet interest in supporting India's space ambitions. When U.R. Rao, the project director, met Soviet ambassador Nikolai Pegov, the ambassador asked what was the weight of China's first satellite. When Rao replied it was about 190 kg, Pegov declared, India's must be heavier. Built by 150 Indian scientists in just 30 months at a cost of 3 crore rupees, Aryabhata weighed 358 kg and was designed as a 26-sided polyhedron. Despite suffering a power failure just 4 days after launch, it had accomplished its primary mission, proving that India could design, build, and operate satellites. With Aryabhata's launch, India became the 11th country to have a satellite in orbit.
What about the technologies and organizational structures?
Solid propellant rocket motor technology, in-house telemetry, tracking, and data systems, indigenous ground support infrastructure, research partnerships with MIT, NASA, ESA, not just tech but methods. By 1972, the Department of Space and the Space Commission had been carved out as a separate government body under the Prime Minister's office for direct oversight, very rare for such a young nation.
So, the Indian model for space was born. A blend of local genius, international partnerships, indigenous development, and relentless transparency about mistakes.
This success was particularly sweet because it came after a failure. On August 10, 1979, the first SLV launch had failed when the rocket went out of control and crashed into the Bay of Bengal. Dr. Kalam later recalled that moment. Behind me, there are 6 experts. They saw computer database and they see pictures coming in the screen and they say there is a problem in the control. I bypassed the computer and launched the system. The first stage went off well, and in the second stage, it got mad. It went into a spin. Instead of putting the satellite in orbit, it put it into the Bay of Bengal. But failure taught them lessons. The team analyzed every component, every system, every decision. When they launched again on July 18, 1980, everything worked perfectly. Dr. Satish Dhawan, the ISRO chairman, demonstrated remarkable leadership during this period. After the 1979 failure, he took complete responsibility in the media. But after the 1980 success, he put Dr. Kalam in front of the cameras to receive the accolades. This is the kind of leadership that built ISRO's culture of learning from failures and sharing success.
How do you summarize these years?
These foundation years from 1962 to 1980 established several key principles that would guide India's space program. 1. From the very beginning, the focus was on developing indigenous capabilities rather than buying off-the-shelf solutions. 2. Practical applications. Space technology was seen as a tool for development, communications, weather forecasting, resource mapping. 3. Lowest effective innovation. Limited resources forced creative engineering solutions that became ISRO's hallmark. 4. Learning from failures. Every setback was treated as a learning opportunity, not a reason to quit. 5. International cooperation. While building indigenous capabilities, India remained open to learning from and collaborating with other nations. By 1980, India had established TERLS and Sriharikota as launch facilities, successfully launched its first satellite, demonstrated indigenous satellite launch capability, trained a generation of space scientists and engineers, and cementing the institutional framework for future growth. The foundation was set. The dreams of Sarabhai and the dedication of thousands of scientists, engineers, and support staff had created something extraordinary. India was ready to reach for the stars.
That's a masterclass on the foundation of India's space journey, full of detail, color, and humanity. We'll take that same deep research approach in Chapter 2, looking at obstacles, failures, and the lessons they sparked. Thank you.